Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Let me get my drink. How is everyone tonight? I hope you're all doing good. We have our book read by Debbie McComber, our holiday book reads, and it is Dear Santa by Debbie McComber. Let's get our prayer for today. Blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. Matthew 5:8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Matthew 5:8. Let's slip that right under here. Put her shoes over here. I had the little puppy between her feet. He's so cute. And this is our holiday book read. And this will take us through the holiday season and into Christmas time. It's going to be an awesome read. Good evening, Dee. Hello, Paula. Oh, you have the wrong book. Oh, no. Yeah, starting now, we already read. That was our last book. And this is Dear Santa, our holiday read for the holiday season. And we are going to start with just chapter 1 tonight. Hold on, I'm going to give my kitty, it's early, so let me give her her treats so she settles down. And I got to get comfortable. It's kind of weird going this early, but I love it. Okay. Chapter 1, Dear Santa. Home. The moment Lindy Carmichael turned down Apple Orchard Lane in Wenatchee, Washington, she released a deep sigh. An immediate sense of familiar warmth and welcome filled her. She had 2 full weeks off to celebrate Christmas and New Year's with her friends. If ever she needed a break, it was this year. And what a truly terrible, awful year it had been. 3 years ago, after working for several small companies, Lindy had been hired for her dream job with a marketing and website design company. Her degree in computer science with a specialty in graphics and visualization, plus her work history, was tailor-made for the media blast. Confident that her creative talent would accompany her assets, she had been sure she would fit right in. Well, her beloved job and the opportunity it afforded her, she couldn't help feeling underappreciated. Just before Lindy left for vacation, she submitted a campaign for the Ferguson Group, one of the largest accounts This opportunity to prove her worth was exactly what she had been waiting for. If her proposal was chosen, then she would get the recognition she deserved. Lindy had never been a quitter. Her dad had once told her that if she did more than she was paid to do, her hard work would eventually be noticed. With time, she would be rewarded for what she did. Lindy held on to that philosophy and had given this job her all. Hold on a minute, guys. I gotta try to fix my light. Ah, there we go. It dimmed on me while I was reading. Pushing thoughts of work problems from her mind, she pulled into the driveway of the home where she had spent the majority of her life. Twinkling lights lining the edge of the roofline greeted her, along with twin reindeer who stood guard over the snow-covered lawn. A large evergreen wreath with silver and blue bulbs hung on the front door. Home for Christmas. This was exactly what she needed to escape the doldrum that had plagued her over the last 6 months. Lindy hadn't completely exited her car before the front door flew open and her mother and Bean, the family dog, hurried toward her in the freshly shoveled driveway. Her mother's arms reached for Lindy, while Bean balanced his front legs against her thighs, tail a-wagging. Oh, come on, light. Don't do this to me tonight. There we go. With barely enough time to inhale the shockingly cold air, Lindy was pulled inside the warm house by her mother, who then enveloped her in a full-body hug. Bean barked his welcome, running circles around her, yapping with excitement. "I didn't think you'd ever get here, Ellen," Carmichael said, helping Lindy off with her coat. "How was the pass?" "I checked the weather condition, and it was snowing over Sequam. Did you have any trouble? I worried that you don't have snow tires. I realize you don't need them in Seattle, but it is a must on the side of the mountain. Mom, my goodness. Give me a minute to catch my breath," Lindy said, giggling. Home. To be surrounded by love was what she needed. The kitchen was warm, and her mother had lunch of a bunch of freshly baked cookies lined in rows on the countertop. Baking was an expression of love to Lindy's family. Her mother started early for the annual Christmas Eve gathering, and longtime friends. Each family would leave with an overflowing plate of homemade cookies. Oh, that brings back memories. That brings back so many memories of when the kids were young and our family. We always left Grandma's house with a plate full of cookies. That's neat. "Did you eat breakfast?" her mother asked her, reaching for the coffee pot. "No, I wanted to get on the road as soon as daylight. Traffic over the Squam Pass could be a problem in winter, and it was often closed due to avalanche concerns." Lindy felt the earlier she got out of Seattle and to the other side of the mountain, the better. Then sit down. I'll fix some for you. Lindy cut off her mother, eyeing the cookies on the countertop. Coffee and a couple of those thumbprints will carry me through lunchtime. Her mother opened the cupboard with a mug, while Lindy helped herself to her favorite Christmas cookies. Sitting across from her, Lindy smiled at her mother. This was what she held in her mind for the last several months while she weathered the storms of life and that had tossed at her, home and Christmas. This was the perfect combination to help her out of this deep emotional slump. Her position with Media Blast was only the tip of the proverbial iceberg. Not wanting her mother, Lindy had kept the majority of her various troubles since summer to herself, nor was she looking to share them the minute she arrived home. Maybe in a few days after she soaked in the serenity of being home, she would feel inclined to explain. After sampling the first cookie, Lindy closed her eyes. I swear I could eat a dozen of these. But you won't. I have lunch planned. Only then did Lindy notice the simmering pot on the stove. Did you make pasta Alfredo? The soup made with catalini and kidney beans and small pasta simmered in a rich tomato broth with family tradition. With sourdough buns, her mother added. The starter had been handed down from her father's grandchildren who had once lived in Alaska. He claimed it from the old Klondike miner and had been kept alive since the 1890s. Wow. Lindy knew her parents had shared it with various family and friends for as long as she could remember. Lindy's father had made the sourdough pancakes every Sunday morning for breakfast. One special occasion, her mother baked the buns using a recipe that had been passed down from her grandmother. Mom, Lindy said and groaned. You're going to spoil me. That's exactly what I intend to do. It's been far too long since you've been home. I was here for the 4th of July, she reminded her mother. She had come home shortly after getting her own apartment and just before she learned the terrible truth. She stopped, her thoughts refusing them to drift toward her more unpleasantness. Yes, and that was months ago. It isn't like we're 1,000 miles apart. Seattle is barely 3 out. I'm reading right now, hon. I'll get the girls in a minute. I'm reading live, yeah. It wasn't like we're 1,000 miles apart. Seattle is barely 3 hours away in traffic. I know, but I moved, remember? And then there was the project for work that demanded nearly every weekend. But it was worth it because I earned 2 weeks off to spend the holidays with you, Dad, Chad, Ashley, and Peter. Her younger brother had married his high school sweetheart and worked at the Apple warehouse in supply chain management. Within a year, Ashley and Chad had presented her parents with an amazing grandson. Lindy was crazy about 4-year-old Peter. They connected every week through FaceTime, and she mailed him gifts often. Chad had to ask her to resist. Ashley was currently pregnant with a little girl that they had decided to name Grace. Oh, that's a pretty name. She was due to arrive the first week of March. When Lindy finished her coffee and cookies, she had unloaded her car, brought in her suitcase up to her bedroom. Standing in the doorway to the familiar room, she frowned. It exactly as it had been when she left for college. She sat on the edge of the bed and looked around, remembering how carefree life had been when she was a teenager. Oh, don't we remember those days? A poster of the Jonas Brothers was tacked to the wall. Her pom-poms from dance team were tucked against the corner of the bulletin board, and the corsage she had for her senior prom was pinned to the board. Home. Peace washed over her as she wrapped all that was familiar around her like a heated blanket. Lunch will be ready soon, her mother called from the kitchen. Soon after Lindy had unpacked, she tucked the few wrapped gifts that she brought with her under the Christmas tree and adorned the living room in front of the picture window that looked over the apple orchard lane. I'll be right there, Mom. Admiring the tree, Lindy joined her mother, who had already dished up 2 steaming bowls of soup. The bread basket sat in the middle of the table, along with the butter dish. After a simple grace, Lindy lifted her spoon. I dreamed about this soup. It never tastes the same when I make it, and I follow the recipe to the letter. Somehow, it always tastes better when you cook it. That's because it's made with love. Lindy wanted to discount the extra ingredient that her mother insisted made the difference. How could she, when there didn't seem to be any explanation? Her mother waited until Lindy had finished her lunch before she paused, her eyes serious. Looking directly at Lindy, she said, I'm waiting. Waiting for what? Lindy asked. Waiting for you to tell me what's going on with you, and please don't try to brush this off. You best tell me before. Mom, there's nothing. With narrowed eyes, her mother waved her index finger like a clock's pendulum. Lindy rose. I'm your mother. No one knows you better than me. I have suspected for quite some time you're unhappy. Now spill. Lindy was afraid that once she started, she might not be able to stop. It's more than work, isn't it? Her mother did know her. Yes, Lindy confirmed. There's more to the story of my split with Brian. Lindy had told her parents that they had broken up, but she hadn't gone into the details. She couldn't. It was too painful. Hello, Anna. You would rather be vague about the reasons? With cause, a majority of what happened were things she would prefer to keep to herself. Did it have to do with you getting your apartment? Apparently, her parents were good at reading between the lines. Lindy nodded. It was that and so much more. I remember in July when you mentioned your relationship with Brian had changed. It was not long afterward that you decided to go your separate ways. Shortly after she returned to Seattle, Lindy had learned the truth about Brian and Celeste, and it was devastating to her. You cared for him, right? Yeah, Lindy had, deeply. Early in their relationship, could see them marrying and building a lifetime together. She achieved her career goals. She enjoyed his company, but in time progressed, she could see Brian wasn't ready for marriage. And for that matter, neither was she. Marriage to a huge commitment. Are you sorry you two broke up? Definitely not, she said. Her mother's eyebrows rose close to the hairline. Your reaction tells me there's a whole lot more going on that you haven't mentioned. Lindy's shoulders slumped slightly. She hadn't intended to get into quite so much so soon. Now, with her mother probing for answers, Lindy felt that she didn't have a choice. She might as well get it over with. Learning what Celeste, her one-time best friend, and Brian had done wasn't something she relished telling her mother. Her mother paused as she waited for Lindy to continue. Lindy knew her mother intended to give her time until she was comfortable enough to explain. When the lease on Celeste and my apartment was close to being up, Lindy said after several painful minutes, we knew it was time for each of us to get our own place. Lindy's heart actually hurt as she relayed the events that summer. Celeste was working in Edmond. That meant she had nearly an hour commute through the heavy Seattle traffic. It made sense for her to look for an apartment closer to her job. Apartments in Seattle are a premium, but I found one pretty easily. It was an older complex, and a friend who was moving in had told her about it. Lindy quickly snapped it up. Celeste wasn't so lucky. It took weeks to find a place that she could afford. She saw one she liked, that she was out of her price range, and went for it. I figured she was better at budgeting than I was. Her mother continued to listen, not asking a lot of questions, which Lindy appreciated. We made plans to move, vowing to stay in touch no matter what. They had been roommates and best friends since their college days, and they had met during their freshman year. It would be the first time they had lived apart since they were 18. In retrospect, Lindy should have known something was wrong. Celeste signed a lease on an apartment she couldn't afford. Lindy nodded, avoiding eye contact. How did she manage this? She got a roommate, Lindy said. For a one-bedroom unit? Lindy glanced up. She had met a guy. I didn't know Celeste was into a serious relationship. I didn't either. That was the crux of it. Lindy had been oblivious to what was happening between her best friend and Brian. Oh no. Her mother frowned. What aren't you telling me? Her roommate is Brian. The two of them had been going apartment hunting behind my back for weeks. I was stupidly blind, trusting them both. No, her mother gasped. Brian moved in with Celeste. Even though she had learned the truth months ago, a sick feeling churned in Lindy's stomach. Well, that weasel. That's not the worst of it. Earlier, when Celeste and I decided it was time to find our own spaces, Brian had suggested the two of us move in together. I turned him down. I wasn't ready for that kind of commitment. Then all of a sudden, he called and canceled several dates we had made. I thought it was his passive-aggressive way of getting back at me for refusing to move in together. He's a jerk, Lindy, a real jerk. Her mother's words were tame compared to how Lindy thought of her ex-boyfriend. Shortly after we moved out of the apartment, I stopped off to see about helping Celeste unpack. I hadn't heard from her since she had moved and knew she was working long hours and could probably use the help. I had sent her a couple of text messages that she hadn't responded to, and I was concerned. Imagine my surprise when around and Brian answered the door. Oh, Lindy, I'm so sorry. Lindy had no intention of discounting the betrayal she had felt in that moment. It was enough that Brian had cheated on her with Celeste. But for her best friend to go behind her back, this was way even worse. Heartache from a broken romance was one thing she had experienced before. Johnny Bennis had broken her heart when she was in high school. Her friends had rallied around her, and she had gotten over him rather quickly. This was different. To lose her best friend, her confidant, her one person in Seattle who was supposed to and believed in her, was a double hit. She missed Celeste's company far more than she did Brian's. Even now, it was hard to believe Celeste would betray and deceive her this way. So much for friends. It stinks, Lindy said. The thing is, Mom, I'm a complete romantic failure. Saying it aloud made it seem all the more real. Don't say that. How can I not? Mandel and Nate are engaged and already adopted a dog they named Oscar. She asked me to be her bridesmaid in her wedding. And Mandel isn't the only one of my college friends who is in a committed relationship. Hello, Dawn. How are you? Nice to see you this evening. I know what Celeste and Brian did hurts. No kidding. She hadn't meant to blurt out all of this drama the instant she walked into the front door. Lindy had hoped to put it all behind her and enjoy the holidays with her family. The less she thought about Brian and Celeste, the better all around. I'm sorry you had to go through this. Her mother's gentle sympathy helped ease the ache in her heart. Thank you, Mom. Well, my head knows that. My heart is having a hard time accepting it. I can understand that. Her mother was right. Still, Lindy found it hard to believe. It's my own fault. I made the mistake of checking Celeste's page on Facebook last night. And while I was spending my weekends alone, the two of them were skiing on White Pass and attending the Seahawks football game. What hurts the most are those very activities Brian and I did last winter. I am such a loser. You most certainly are not a loser, Lindy Rose Carmichael. I lost my boyfriend and my best friend. Losing Brian isn't so bad. But Celeste? I have lots of friends, but Celeste and I were so close. We shared everything. I just didn't expect to have to share my boyfriend. The two of them deserve each other, her mother said. Lindy expected her mother to champion her. As far as I'm concerned, Brian isn't half the man we thought he was, her mother continued. It's painful for you now. I remember, she paused. You remember what? Her mother's eyes darkened with sadness. I remember how I felt when your birth father walked out on me. It seemed as if my entire world had collapsed around me. As soon as I learned I was pregnant with you, he took off for the hills. He couldn't get away fast enough. Oh, Mom, Lindy whispered. Looking at it from her mother's point of view, Lindy had gotten off lucky. Scooting back her chair, Ellen gestured for Lindy to remain where she was. There's something I want to show you. Show me? Something that will make you feel better. Well, that sounded promising. Lindy wasn't sure anything her mother had to show her would lift her spirits from the funk. Her mother disappeared and returned in a few minutes. With a big smile, she handed Lindy a child-sized shoebox. What's that? She asked. Her mother's face glowed with excitement. I went through some of those boxes I packed away in the garage years ago and found this. I have been saving it to show you. These, my precious daughter, are your letters to Santa. Well, they might amuse me, Mom. I doubt they will do anything to take away the ache in my heart. I think you might be surprised, her mother insisted. Now, open it up and read the first letter. Lindy couldn't imagine anything she had written back when she believed in Santa and the power of influence in her life right now. Trust me, her mother whispered. Read the one on the top. You wrote it when you were 5. This is silly. Still, she couldn't help being curious. Don't be so sure, her mother said, with a twinkle in her eye. And that takes us to chapter 2. Oh, I can tell this is going to be a wonderful book, you all. Dear Santa, I cannot wait to see what is in that next chapter. You all have a beautiful, wonderful evening. Thank you for coming in and spending time reading with me. God bless everyone. Good night.